We're going to jump into a full preview of this Week 12 matchup, but don't be afraid. Get in the comment section right now and give me your score predictions for the Browns coming to town to take on the 5-5 Broncos. Welcome on in to the Broncos breakdown, the 5-5 Broncos breakdown, the 4-game winning streak Broncos breakdown, as the 7-3 Cleveland Browns come to town for a big AFC matchup, because this could have some major playoff implications and some tiebreakers down the line. So we're going to run through my keys to victory. We'll talk about the injury reports, and we'll also look at the two teams head-to-head. But I do want to share the playoff picture as it stands right now, because there is a lot of football to be played, but Denver is on the outside looking in at 5-5. However, if they were to take down the Browns and they would improve to 6-5, that could have them jump up to the wild card spot, depending on what happens to the Texans and the Steelers. It could also prove to be a vital tiebreaker later on in the season, and the same goes for Cleveland, vice versa. So let's get ourselves familiar with the two teams here, as Denver's defense prepares for the Dorian Thompson-Robinson-led offense. A very different offense with Deshaun Watson out now, but Denver's defense still lasts in the league in a lot of categories, primarily because of the Dolphins game. Like, those are just huge numbers that are going to sink your average. Meanwhile, let's look at Denver's offense against what I believe is the number one defense in the NFL with Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are giving up 243 yards a game, the lowest in the league. Third down percentage, the lowest in the league. They have forced 15 takeaways so far compared to Denver's 13 turnovers. Now, the big storyline is Denver's defense and the dramatic turnaround it has gone under over the last 5 games. Like, you compare the first 5 weeks compared to the next 5 weeks, and I don't believe outside of Vance Joseph and Sean Payton, there is a single person on this planet that thought Denver's defense, after giving up 70 points to the Dolphins, a short month later would be averaging 17.4 points allowed. They have given up 97 first downs compared to 122 the first 5 games. The record is completely flipped. Takeaways are way up. Denver's defense is not the same defense that it was in September, and if Browns fans don't know it, they are definitely going to find out on Sunday. Now, some important injury news to get to here. As for the Browns, they have a lot of players on the injury list going into this game. Marquise Goodwin, their speedy wide receiver, he is still dealing with a concussion. I do not expect to see him on Sunday. Anthony Walker, their starting middle linebacker, is week to week with a hamstring injury. Unlikely he is able to go. Denzel Ward, their best DB, is dealing with a shoulder injury. I'm optimistic that he will play. Grant Delpit and Juan Thornhill, both of their starting safeties, are on the injury report. Juan Thornhill missed last week against the Steelers for Cleveland, but Delpit is an Iron Man, and I suspect he will be able to go on Sunday. Now, a big name on the injury report for Denver is P.J. Locke, which by itself is not a big name, but when you factor in Kareem Jackson is suspended the next 4 weeks, well, P.J. Locke would be the next man up. Now, unfortunately, he went down with an ankle injury in the Bills game, and we saw how vital P.J. Locke is. If Kareem Jackson is not out there and P.J. Locke's injured, then it's Delaire and Turner Yell. And that's not something anyone should want to see, right? So if P.J. Locke cannot go, it might be J.L. Skinner filling in for Locke, or filling in for Locke, who's filling in for Jackson. But outside of that, Denver is relatively healthy going into this game. I mean, as healthy as you really can be at this point in the season. Now let's get into my keys to victory for Sean Payton. So Sean, get a pen and paper, write this shit down. First key to victory, score off turnovers. Denver has forced 12 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. They've only scored 25 points. How? Like, you're not even getting a field goal off of each turnover. Denver is fumbling a great opportunity. The defense continues to get them, and they are lucky to have won the last 2 games, given the dramatic win in the turnover department and only having a combined win total of 3 points. Like, for this defense to force this many turnovers and for the offense to not even average a field goal off of these turnovers is borderline a war crime. Denver's 4-game winning streak is a product of the turnover margin and the turnover battle entirely, but they are flying close to the sun. Like, if you generate 3+ turnovers, 4 turnovers against the Bills, you should win by 2 scores, right? Not win by 1 or 2 points. So at some point, I feel like Denver's luck might run out of, hey, the defense is going to give us 5 turnovers. We're only going to score off of 2 of them. Hopefully that will be enough. No, at some point, your luck's going to run out if you do not capitalize on a great opportunity, right? It's like having it's like having Park Place and having Boardwalk in Monopoly. People keep landing on your blue steps and you're not charging them. Like, you have to capitalize on these great opportunities. If they don't, I feel their luck could run out. Second key to victory: eliminate Cleveland's run game. The Browns are without Deshaun Watson for the remainder of the season, so it'll be Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie, getting the start on Sunday for a second straight week. And if you look at DTR's passing chart from his second start of the year and first start of the second half of the season against the Steelers on Sunday, you might notice there's not a single pass attempt beyond 15 yards. The Browns clearly had a very conservative game plan for DTR's first start since taking over from Deshaun Watson. He started 1 week back in week 4, but it was kind of a overall disaster with 90 minutes notice. But I expect the Browns to have a little bit more of a deep passing game. However, if they don't add any new wrinkles to that, then they're definitely going to continue to lean on Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt, who combine in the rest of the Cleveland Browns ground game for a top 5 rushing attack in the NFL. So with Dorian Thompson-Robinson kind of tipping his hand that the Browns do not want to pass the ball deep and they want to run the football like any team would with a rookie quarterback coming in for his 3rd NFL start, well, that's going to put a lot of stress on the Broncos' run defense, which is dead last in the NFL. Now, of course, when you give up over 300 yards to the Miami Dolphins, that's going to tank your average. But it's not just that game. Like, there are a lot of other games where Denver's run defense has been run off the field. So, with DTR clearly not looking to air the ball out, the Browns want to run the football. It's going to be up to Zach Allen and Denver's run defense in the trenches to control the line of scrimmage. Before we get on to the rest of my keys to victory for the Broncos, make sure you check out our proud sponsor, Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had some of the most fun watching football, winning up to 25 times my money this season. We all know there can be some absolute stinkers of primetime matchups, so for anyone brave enough to watch Black Friday with Tim Boyle and the Jets, how about you have a little bit more fun by getting in on Prize Picks? Here are my selections for Turkey Day. I'm taking the more on Christian McCaffrey, half a receiving and rushing yard combined. I mean, just half. We can just get 1 rushing yard out of him, and that's done. Jahmyr Gibbs, more than his rushing and receiving yards combined as well. And I figured I'd go for all 3 running backs in the 3 games with the more on Tony Pollard. And finally, I just sprinkled in Brandon Ayuk and DK Metcalf, more than half a touchdown combined. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link for that is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Moving on to my third key to victory for Denver, key in on David Njoku. If you guys have watched my previews before, you know that it's just a given that Patrick Surtain is going to remove the other team's top receiver, which is Amari Cooper in this case. So if Amari Cooper is completely removed, well, I think David Njoku could become a major focal point for Cleveland's air attack. Now, the Browns tight end has been a go-to guy for them so far this year. 45 grabs already, 433 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, whose domain does this fall under? Alex Singleton will definitely have a role in covering number 85 for Cleveland, and he has been god-awful in coverage this year. When targeted, he's been completed 91% of the passes. He has given up 459 yards, 4 touchdowns, just 1 pass breakup, and his PFF coverage grade, 46.5. So like I said, you know Pat Surtain is going to put Amari Cooper on an island. Cooper might get a reception here or there, but I would be shell-shocked if Amari Cooper went off for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So can Cleveland find another matchup to capitalize on? That's clearly going to be a major focal point for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns, right? Knowing Amari Cooper might not be there very often for our young rookie QB. So where else can we go? Well, David Njoku has been the bread and butter for them, and Alex Singleton has been really bad in coverage for Denver. That's a matchup that Cleveland will likely try and capitalize on and abuse. So it'll be up to Denver to counteract that. Now, before we get on to the rest of my keys to victory for the Denver Broncos covering the Broncos, well, that's what we do here at the Broncos Breakdown. So make sure to go ahead and hit that sub button and don't miss the latest Broncos news and rumors all season long. Moving on to the rest of my keys to victory, let's get some vertical shots in, right? How about some nice Jerry Jeudy deep balls coming here? Now, unfortunately, I don't know why, but the cowards over at AWS, and we'll get the passing chart up in a moment here, don't have the Week 11 passing chart against the Minnesota Vikings. But let's look back at the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. And here's Russell Wilson's passing chart. And there are some deepest shots, right? You can see a completion for 20 yards, an incomplete pass for about 24 yards. But by and large, there are just a lot of short passes near the line of scrimmage. I mean, that was almost a career low. Russell Wilson completed 24 passes for just 193 yards. That's kind of tough to do, to complete that many passes and not have it go for a little bit more than 193 yards. Now, we did see a little bit more out of him against the Vikings, but when you start to get patterns, teams start to pick up on that. And I'm sure Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz and the rest of that Cleveland defense are noticing a pattern from Russell Wilson, and that is they are not pushing the envelope. Now, we all have gone back and forth on whether or not it's a good idea to let Russ cook. I think what we can all agree is doing a extreme of whatever that is not a good idea. Whether it's letting Russ cook way too much or not letting Russ cook at all, right? You don't want to find yourself in either camp. Right now, Denver is trending more towards the let's not let Russ cook at all. So if I'm Denver, I would open up a few more vertical shots, right? Make Cleveland secondary respect the fact that Russell Wilson can take the top off a defense still. If word gets out that every single pass is going to be within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, well, you're going to see Cleveland's DB start stacking the box a little bit, and safeties are going to start leaning a little bit towards the line of scrimmage. Final key to victory for Sean Payton, double team Myles Garrett. He's going to win NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He has embarrassed a lot of offenses this year. He literally got an offensive coordinator fired this week, Matt Canada and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't be the next victim if you're Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, right? Do not let Myles Garrett beat you. You know what he's capable of. 13 sacks this year, a league leading, 4 forced fumbles. He has taken over games. He has won games single-handedly primarily. So Cleveland's path to winning until they get a little bit more of a rhythm with either Dorian Thompson-Robinson or maybe even Joe Flacco is to lean on the defense, right? They're going to call on the defense, which they have done time and time again, to ask, can you give us a little bit time to figure out what our new offensive identity is? Because if you're the Browns, you're sitting there thinking, it took us about 5 to 6 weeks to figure out our offense without Nick Chubb. We just lost Deshaun Watson. We're going to need more than a week or two to figure out how we can be successful offensively without Watson moving forward. So, defense, can you buy us some time until we figure that out? And so now it's on Sean Payton to make sure Myles Garrett does not take over this game. All right, before we get on to the score prediction for today's show, what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish? Anyone that thinks they're super cool and doesn't like turkey on Thanksgiving, like, screw you. It's Thanksgiving. It's its one day of the year. Let it have its moment. So, what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish, right? Let me know down below in the comment section. My score prediction for this game, I've got the Browns winning. I know that's not what Broncos country wants to hear, but I always try to be honest with you guys. And the reality is this 4-game winning streak for Denver is incredible for that locker room. It is well-earned, and they have been working for it for a long time. But my fear, and this is what I shared earlier in the video, is that Denver is creating a lot of takeaways. The offense is not turning those takeaways into points. And they won against the Vikings by 1 point, the Bills by 2 points. I fear that may catch up to them if the defense continues to produce takeaways and the offense just gives it right back to the opposition, that it might bite them in the derriere. And I could see the Browns defense being the team that bites them in the derriere. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys on Sunday.